Hello everyone, this is Blender Guppy. So in this video, I'm going to retry the baking process using random flow. So essentially, we're going to use random flow on a simple plane and then bake the randomized geometry to as a texture you can use for your projects. But this time, instead of using the normal way of baking this, we're going to use the add-on called TexTools. So TexTools is an add-on for Blender, a UV add-on for Blender that lets you, of course, control stuff like the size of the UV, or you can create the size of the UV here. You can this is vanilla, of course, but you can do it using the UI of TexTools, and then you can, of course, establish the checker map. We have the UV layout, so different a lot of commands or operator that isn't in vanilla blender. So vanilla blender is what comes with blender naturally without any add-ons, so to speak. Okay, so especially we have something really useful like rectify. So this essentially flattens the faces into a grid and very useful for shading a topology that is curved, so putting textures on it. So instead of the textures not following the curve, you can flatten it using rectify, and then the texture would not follow the curve because the curved UV island is now straight and stuff like that. So we're going to use this one here, the baking feature. And we're going to use 1024 for just for this video. We're going to use a small or a mid-size map, 1024. So it's up to you to go 24 to 8 or 40 or 4K. Okay, so just for this example, we're going to use 1024. And there's a lot of maps you can, texture maps you can bake using this add-on. So just Google TexTools, TexTools plus Blender add-on, and then it will show you I think it is in render JS, something like that. So you can download the site, you can download it from that site, and it's free, but you can also support it from that site also. So what we're going to bake is probably tangent normal, AO, and the color. And the color we're going to bake as emission. So just this three for this example. So remember the details that I've been using for the ship, for my spaceships, and from the sci-fi buildings. So those came from baked random flow results using this add-on. Okay. So instead of from the other video, the old one or the previous one, I've shown how to bake Blender using the normal way, which is dragging the textures to the shader and all that stuff. But this time we're going to use TexTools. Okay. So this is my the geometry I'm going to use random flow on, and this is we're going to duplicate it, and this is going to be our bake object or the mesh we're going to bake the details to. Let's hide this and experiment with this one. So let's just give this a some random topology just to um, give flavor to the randomized result. So this is much better this way than using evenly spaced quads. So you get really random results. Okay. Um, let's start. We're going to let's use random loop extrude, and then subdivide. Let's use 5%, and then include them loop 3. So we're going to use 3 loops and then also 5% here. Okay, so using this view, the top view, we're going to again looking at it, you can see the separation between the phase islands. But when you bake this, this is not what the baker will see. Okay, what the baker will see is this, some turning of cavity in the viewport and also outline. So this is what it will see when baking it from our bake object. So there's no distinguishing factor between the face islands. Okay. So what we're going to do is bring up the redo panel and give it some thickness, like 0.002, and also in loop number 3 as well. So we're starting to see the separation between the 6.0. Let's try 0.005. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's turn on the cavity and also the outline. Okay, so this is what our baker will see. Turning off cavity and outline. So this is the detail that it will bake. Okay. To further increase the visibility of the edges for the baker, we can, of course, select the 3 objects and then creative flow, micro bevel, use bevel modifier, harden normals, and increase the bevel, and use auto smooth. Let's try and increase the the bevel amount. Okay, there you go. So looking at this, there's not much difference between adding the bevel and without it. So let's just try to remove it. But if you do want to accentuate the edges more, you can use the beveling trick. Okay, so with let's select the 3 objects. Go to its edit mode, select a top face here and Shift G to select similar and select the same normal. So it will select all the faces, the top faces that have the same normal from the selection, even if they don't share the same plane, meaning the same elevation. So using these top faces, we're going to add another detail. So let's try random panels. Oops. How about one? Increase the subdivision. So the trick here, of course, for opening up the edges is the thickness. Zero thickness, there's no you cannot tell the separation between the islands. So let's increase that. So I'm going to use cavity and outline again just to see what the mesh looks like. Let's use radial and decrease this to avoid geometric distortion. You can still see the lines. Okay, let's use I've selected the source mesh and then I'm going to use random panels on this. So there's like a panel effect underneath the result of the random loop extrude. Okay, and let's add some, our source mesh is still selected. Let's add some tubes. Selected. Increase the margin and increase the amount of tubes. Increase the subdivision. So depth, determines the thickness of the tube, and increase the maximum amount or the maximum sections to somewhere like 12. Minimum length is 4, meaning that a tube that only has 4 segments will be removed from the result. And a line means that it will go 5 segments or 5 sections of the tube before turning the tube. Okay. If it has enough faces or enough vertices to develop those segments, if it has no choice without reaching the segment 5 here, if it has no choice to turn, then it will turn. Okay. 10. Let's just use 5. Maximum length is 10. And then offset, kind of bury it towards the mesh. And then here in bevel, let's choose 0.01. Okay. So the same value, using the min max having the same value means that there's no randomization. So let's play around with the seed. Okay. So this looks good. If you want to uh, if you want more pipes, but the subdivision you're using is already too high and the operation is slowing down, what you can do is repeat the same process without use the same operator again without raising the subdivision level. That way you can have a lot of pipes without actually um, raising the subdivision property on a single go of the on a single use of the operator. Let's manage the offset. Kind of bury some of the pipes into the source, the result of the random loop extrude. Okay, let's bring it up. I think that was too much. Okay, and random seed the location. Okay, I'm gonna save this as bake test. Okay, let's move on. We can add another one. Let's select the loop objects again. Actually, let's use the random loop extrude. This one. Okay, wait. Plain random loop extrude. Um, are these the ones? Oh, yes. Okay, let's use the top faces again and introduce some tiny squares using random cells. Okay, margin, thickness. Where's the cuts? Okay, let's create some thickness or depth. Depth. Okay, that's too much. And then for the baker to see it, because we need some thickness to this. I mean, yeah, some thickness. If without using without the cavity and the outline, you can see that the baker cannot see that. So we have to give it some thickness. There we go. And now they are visible to the bake outline cavity. Number of just percentage, use percentage of 2%. some island size to number 2, and then play around with the pool seed to generate randomized positions for the cells. Let's use 1%. Oops, seed. Okay, another iteration. Island size, pool seed. Increase the resolution. There you go. So I think we're ready to bake. We're going to bake this. But first, I'm going to convert the curve objects into a mesh. So Control Shift X, create a flow, apply mesh. Now from curve to mesh, we're going to join these objects. So you can bake this as multiple objects, but the results too many. And the active one will be your bake object. Okay. So what I like to do is just join these objects. It's a single object. So I'm not gonna press Control J. I'm gonna press Shift Q for random flow, extras, and join objects to the plane, our source object. There you go. So it the shading has changed because some of the objects in the list have been auto smooth and some are not. Okay. So what we're going to do is Control Shift X auto smooth, or in random flow Shift Q mesh auto smooth. Okay, and then I'll H our bake to object, and this is our bake from object. Create a group for them. Control J, then F9. Oops, don't you? Not Control J. That's join objects. Control G. So group them into a new collection. F9, so they don't get grouped into into the default collection. Rename this so they don't get grouped into the default collection. The default collection includes the camera, the default cube. So rename this, Control G, F9, and then rename this. Okay. So we're going to rename this to our bake objects. Bake object. Okay. And then selecting these two right here. We need low poly, I think, is the square, the cube. Oops, TexTools. Low poly, I think the icon is the cube, and the high poly is the sphere. So we're going to in the site. In the site, if you scroll down, there's a graphical instruction that you can follow for the operations, or you can, of course, Google tutorial specifically for the TexTools add-ons. Okay, so what we're going to do is tell the add-on which of the objects are the low poly or the high poly. Okay, so we're going to rename this plane. You can rename this plane into just add underscore LP. Okay, and that will work. But what I like to do is just for this exercise or um just for this exercise of using two objects, I'm just gonna name this as underscore LP. That will be our low poly, and this one is underscore HP, meaning our high poly. So there's still no uh sphere icon, meaning that the script still identifies this one as a low poly. Okay, we're gonna trick it. All these faces, 123 triangles, and it still doesn't recognize this as high poly. Okay, so gonna trick this. Control, I add some subdivision. subdivision surface. Gonna wait because this okay, and disable it in edit mode. Disable it in real time and also disable it in render. Okay, click on it. It still didn't work. Okay. Viewport. Mm, there we go. Okay, now as you can see, if to update the UI, I move the mouse cursor here and then just move it in and out of the UI of the add-on to update the uh, still considers it as the, but if you select the two and then update the, okay, so we have our, but if you select this one, it doesn't consider it as high poly. I don't know why, but this is how I cheat it. I just add subdivision, then disable it, and then select the two. Okay, so we have our high poly. Now we can use this to actually get the or bake our maps. Okay, padding 4, XY 1024, bake. There's anti-aliasing. We're just gonna using 4 times will slow down the operation. Just know that using 2 times, 4 times will increase the processing time, the baking time relative to the size of the map that you are using. So 8K and then anti-aliasing of 4 times. Uh, expect to if unless you're using 14 some high-end graphic card, of course, expect the baking process to be long. Okay, let's try it. Let's try the texture, bake object, single texture, organize. Gauge extrusion. Okay. Leave everything as is and just bake. Let's try it. Bake. Okay, this is our normal. The pipes aren't round because I've changed the property. Uh, See here, they are smooth shaded. In the next update, I've changed the resolution property. This used to be 6, I think, or 4. I changed it into 1 because offset. This is smooth shading and you can tell the difference. If you toggle off the shade smooth, you can see the roughness of our of having the resolution just 1, increasing it to something like 4 or 6. Okay, so it will be up to you, the user, to increase this up from the default value. Okay, so I've used resolution 1 just to for the default process to actually be lighter when you're experimenting with the pattern using the subdivision in just compared to using this amount of subdivision and using resolution number 6, resolution 6. Of course, it will be your decision to raise this up to something like 4 or 6 and then shade smooth. But if you're not using it for something like this, you can just use 1 and activate shade smooth and you get a lighter set of pipes for your project. Okay, so that's why this is kind of low polling, but this is just an example, of course. Okay, this is our normal map and we're going to take the AO next. So with AO, with normal, you don't see any samples. With AO, you can see the samples here. So this is, I think, cycles. So the lower the samples, the higher the noise that you will get for your normal map, AO map. Okay, let's try 16 and then bake. Selecting these two, okay, and then baking. It will create another map for this. Okay, you can see the noise. And why is this super black? Let's try and bring it closer. Okay, bake AO, bake normal tangent. Okay, bake the AO again. Okay, the black is still there. I don't know why, but yeah. So let's just try and get rid of the noise. This dark spot here is a problem with the geometry. I might have to, let's try this. This I can select the okay, this one. Q length flat faces and then bring it down, something like that, and then rebake. See if this fixes the problem. Uh, kind of fixes it a bit, but let's just move on. This is geometry problem, something like proximity or something. But this is not the point of the video. The point is I'm going to show you the baking process using TexTools and random flow. Okay, increase this to 64, maybe just 256. Okay. Um, Selecting these two, then bake objects AO. Okay. Bake objects refers to the name of our group that we created earlier. Bake. So TextTools is capable of course, more advanced baking processes than this one, but I leave it to you to study that. So I think this is we can use this. Okay, okay, bake objects a AO, save, then let's get rid of this, and then let's add vertex color for this for the color. Random vertex color. Set it to black and white. Saturation is 0 for the maximum. Min max is both 0 for just black and white, and then minimum value is 0.6, maximum value something like 0.95, and island. Okay, play around with the value like this. So since we used join objects, this works in conjunction with split mesh. This can this can split the mesh again back to its previous state or the objects. So, for example, our random cells. If you separate this, if you need to separate this, you have to select every one of the just to bring back its previous state. But using the join objects in random flow, it saves those objects as here vertex groups. So let's see, random cells, select, there you go. Another random cells, there you go. So when you select this mesh and then use split mesh, it will split the objects based on the contents of this vertex group. Okay, so with this knowledge, we can select the pipes. Select, oh no, do not remove that. Control Z. Okay, select, and then this one, select as well. And then we're going to create a flow and set a uniform vertex color for them. Okay, set, oops, there we go. And this will be our, this vertex color will be our uh, diffuse color. But in the baker, in TexTools, there's no way to bake. If you bake the diffuse, it's going to bake the it's gonna be dark. It's going to bake the shader, and it's going to be dark like the AO. So we don't want that. We just want the flat color. So we're going to select these objects, go to shader, S, pressing S, I guess. Yeah, shader editor. You can click this, then press S, or you can click this and click shader editor, or you can, I think, use Shift F3. But you can see here that compositor, texture node editor, geometry node, and shader editor both have the same hotkey, Shift F3. The trick here is to, of course, cycle. But you can use the Shift F3 to cycle between these windows. So Shift F3. Just you keep using Shift F3 until you see this icon. This is the shader editor. Okay, and this one here, new. Change this to emission and plug in our vertex color. So if you, I think this is, yeah, Node Wrangler. You need to activate Node Wrangler in the add-ons. This comes with Blender. This is free. This is free. Yeah, it comes with vanilla Blender, and it gives you this pop-up window here. And then you can select the vertex color. There's a bunch of other attributes here, but vertex color is the one created by random flow. Use when it assign vertex color to the faces of the object. So click this, and then use color, and then here when we render this, this is what the baker will bake. Okay, click two objects. Let's go back to our UV editor. So you can click this or click this and press U. Okay, selecting this, go to our where is it? Emission. Emission. There we go. Emission, and then bake our emission. Okay. So you can rename the emission as diffuse. This will be our diffuse, and we will multiply our what you call it, AO. Then use the normal information on that for the bumps. Okay, go to shader, new, and then Control T shortcut. Clicking this, clicking any node, Control T gives you this combination of nodes for assigning textures. You need to activate Node Wrangler for this, and with this, just click on this and Shift S to swap it for another node. Also, Node Wrangler feature. Okay, shader. I mean, not shader. Oh yeah, we have image textures, and then click this, so it will show you the files that are in Blender. So new will open your PC, the files on your PC. With this one, it will only show you the files, the texture files on your in Blender right now. So normal tangent is black. Why is that black? Um, Bake objects emission, and then color, mix, set this to multiply, duplicate this. Let us use bake AO, and then in input node 2 or B, set the bake objects AO, and let them share the same mapping. Let's try and do this. Okay, activate HDRI. Okay, so this is a, you can tone down the AO, of course. So let's go to our texture, the editor. Our normal has gone black or has disappeared. Why is that? We're going to just, okay, normal tangent. bake, not emission, but normal, tangent normal bake. It disappeared. Okay, let's go back to shader and then use the normal map here. Let them share the same mapping. Click this and connect it to the normal input node of the principal BSDF and go to Victor. Do not use bump. Bump is for textures. Grayscale textures you can use for for like bumps of the mesh. But for a true normal map, you can use the normal map node here. This save. Okay, non-color sRGB. Okay, let's increase the metallic. Let's just it's just a matter of lighting. There we go. And you can see our normal map. If I disconnect the normal map, so we can also control the intensity of our diffuse right here using color ramp. And the intensity of our AO is controlled by this mix node, which is set to multiply. And this is our controlling factor. So to turn this into an array, we're going to make the texture smaller using this one. So with this properties, you can just click, do not release, press the left mouse button, then drag down. Then you can change these values at the same time, or you can shift. Not shift, just right click on the mouse. Left click on the mouse. I mean, not right click. Damn. Left click, left click, press, drag down, and then you can also besides release, you can release the mouse, and then you can manually input numbers on it using the numpad key or the number keys on top of the alphabet. 0.5. Okay, let's try the drag. Let's experiment with the values using the drag action. Okay, let's use this on a model, and let's just create a simple building using the random slice. The random slice operator, which is going to be in the update. So I'm just prepping the files, and yeah, it's going to be in the store soon. So this is our just simple building. So random slice will be more optimized on angular angular models, which is generally low poly and really has really big faces. This can work. This doesn't work on subdivided quads. This can work on ingons because it's just drawing lines. It's just gonna draw lines. It doesn't subdivide. Okay. And the neat trick here is that you can, of course, create a destructive. You can merge the effects of the inset in edit mode right to the mesh. So this is the destructive fast process, or in edit mode, you can separate it as a separate object. This is the non-destructive mode. Or in object mode, basically this is the separate. It will result in a separate object. But in edit mode, you can choose to, of course, merge the result. Okay, let's try and use the non-destructive. Minimum length is 0.001, thickness 0.02, and then just increase the uh, number of faces. Okay, let's just try this. Limited solve, and then the UV, I'm going to just use light map. This is really great for angular models which are using ingons, because it basically creates a UV island for each single face. And ingons can, of course, be a really large face. Yeah, can be a really large face. And so, for I mean, for example, cube, this one here. So an ingon can be like this one, so really big. So it can create a UV island for that, a single UV island for that. So I think it's great for ingons. Okay, selecting this, I'm going to use the shader. Oh wait, I'm going to append one of the shaders that I used from another project. Um, okay, grunge metal, and then bring the sign material, grunge metal. Let's look at the result. Okay, because this is not using any. Let's set the film into transparent, because this is not using any the shader is using vertex color, and this is not using vertex color. So island, and then assign the, I mean, I've already assigned the material. Okay, let's remove this or hide this too, and then we're going to use the textures for this one. This is the AO, so we're going to use the bake objects AO as RGB. That's good. And UV. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. Okay. Bake objects AO. AO color. We're going to use the bake objects emission. Normal. Bake objects normal tangent. Let's see the result. Going to remove. I'm using AO for the lights. This is, yeah. There we go. Okay, this one here. Let's just remove the lights for now, or just use, oh, yeah, remove the lights for now. Fake objects AO. I think our texture has disappeared again. Oh my god. Yep. Uh, let's bake it again. Bake, tangent, almost tangent, bake. I don't know why it's doing that. Emission. Let's bake emission, object emission, and then let's go to AO and bake the AO, and our sample is 256. Selected textures, bake objects AO. So good. Bake it. Hide this too. So you can save it using Alt S. If you save it, uh, save it outside of Blender, save it on a folder in your PC using Alt S. Save it as JPEG or PNG or or Targa. Then and then probably you want to avoid the disappearing act. Okay, there you go. Our texture. Pipes look good, and some parts actually look like air conditioning units. Let's gonna try and experiment with the roughness and the metallicity. So you can experiment with the location and the scale. While dragging, you can press shift to slow down the increments. So with this base model, you can then try out and model some more familiar details like doors, really large doors, the building, and then some windows, something like that, just to, of course, increase the familiarity of the object to the viewer. We're going to introduce lights. Let's try and bring this back. So the lights are generated using AO. You can see here the AO. I use the AO to generate the lights and then control the intensity using the color amp. Just a small trick to generate this lighting. Let's try and remove the effects of the light node from the random starship add-on. Okay, there you go. Uh, you can also repurpose the emission or diffuse as displacement. Actually, it's already we're already using it for displacement. Yeah, you can repurpose it using for the displacement using the our diffuse color, our diffuse texture. So there's an additional bump besides the normal map. If we remove this, the displacement effect, the bump still looks good, but if you just want the details to pop out more, especially if you're rendering it in a faraway ranges, you can use this. But using displacement, you can see that everything is brighter. But if you use displacement, you notice the intensity of the brightness in the object. And increase the strength. You can see that the details uh, become darker because using displacement, then the I think the renderer considers it as raised geometry, actually raised geometry because um, edge mask can now work on those displaced lines. But without the displacement, is You see the difference? It actually considers it as actual geometry, and this works on geometry. It's supposed to work in geometry. So now that we've introduced the displaced detail, this now works on those displaced uh, detail, virtually displaced geometry. Let's try and view cavity mask. Okay, it doesn't work on that, just the bevel effect. Using the edge mask, this actually uses the bevel node shader to create the edge mask effect. So yeah, so this is with displacement, and this is without displacement. Okay, so and also the AO I think works, and the shadow. That's why it's darker. So you can use this just to make those details pop out more. But if you feel like the normal map is already doing its job, then you can just bypass the displacement and just use the normal map. But I do use it for some of my renders, my test renders, just to, of course, really accentuate the effects of the textures. This can already function as a sci-fi building. You can create five of this or 10 of this, and then just random scatter it to your scene. Okay, so that's how you can generate those textures or bake those textures using a random flow and then text tools. You can just if you have enough free time, you can just generate multiple maps that you can uh, reuse, save them into a different folder for each set, so you can reuse them for your projects. So we have the details of the pipes and the plating, and then the small squares. and rendering this on mid-range or far away ranges. Um, it looks good and it looks good and convincing. I think let's just try the lights. Here you go, more subtle lighting. Okay, so that is it for this video, and I hope you learned something about baking those results and using them as texture details. So if you have any questions, be sure to use the comment section or the links in the description. And thank you for watching and have a nice day.